Welcome to the First Read Ultimate Spider-Man podcast, where we break down Bendis' iconic run on Ultimate Spider-Man, issues 1 through 160, in Earth 1610. I'm Zach, and with me as always is a gentleman and a scholar, John Opat.
Howdy.
How you doing, man?
Let it be known that I entered to thunderous applause.
He came in on a swan boat.
Yep. How's it going?
Dude, I am doing good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. Early recording week this week. We're on a Tuesday.
Yep. Got the club going.
I kind of like it.
Do you?
Yeah, a little bit.
I was gonna say we don't have that much to talk about. We can't be like, hey, what have you been up to since I saw you 3 days ago?
Well, I've still got some stuff to talk about.
I do too.
Okay.
I was gonna pretend like it's Sunday. So, John, ask me what I did yesterday.
What did you do this week? What did you do yesterday on Saturday?
Oh, man, thanks for asking. It was such a full day. I'm still so tired from it. I was at the quarterback, wide receiver, running back day of the NFL Combine with some dudes from my Dynasty League. And then I went to the Vogue and saw Laura Jane Grace play. She's the singer of Against Me.
We all knew that already, but
yeah,
thanks for telling us.
Yeah. So
wow, and Against Me is a band.
A band, yep. You would know that if you listened to the Jam of the Week 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Oh, was that when it was? Okay. Because I was going to say, I've heard the Jam of the Week the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. I think this week is yours, so I hope you brought something for the class.
Luckily, you've given me the entire episode to think on it.
You're going to have all the time, and then I'm going to be like, all right, clock's ticking. What is it? You're only thing you can think of is going to be head, shoulders,
we
knees,
didn't start the fire. Okay, so that's a fun Saturday that you had.
Yes.
Yeah.
What about you? What have you been up to?
So I went and saw the kids at the school there play that they put on every year.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe longtime listeners will know that, did I talk about it last year? Yeah, I would have, because we would have been recording, so I'm sure I would have mentioned it. That last year it was Mary Poppins, and it was great. And this year it was Seussical the Musical, which was basically just Horton Hears a Who, and Zach. It was pretty disappointing. pretty disappointing stuff from the kids this year. Let's hope none of them are listening here. But gosh, I don't want to sit here and just nitpick a bunch of kids' performances. but some of them were just so good. Phenomenal. Man, how are these people not the leads of the show? And then some of them just didn't bring the energy at all.
Well, I mean, these people, the leads of the show.
I don't know, of Dr. Seuss, of a Dr. Seuss play. Somehow they must not have gotten it in their heads through 4 months of work that you've got to project and be energetic, and man, it was just too bad. There were a couple kids out there that looked like they would have rather been anywhere else but performing. And I went on last Saturday, not yesterday. And I gave them the benefit of the doubt. I was like, well, they'd been doing it 4 days in a row. They were probably really tired of doing it. And then I talked to one of my teacher friends who I work with today, and she had seen it on Wednesday, and she was like, oh my gosh, there was no energy in it. And I was like, oh, I was hoping you wouldn't say that. But it was still really fun. I love getting a chance to complain about the kids.
John, I'm just imagining you a year ago seeing Mary Poppins and then being in the classroom the next week and walking around to these kids and be like, wow, that was so good. Really, follow your dreams. If you want to go into acting, that's a serious profession and I support you. Dude. And then this year you're walking around and you're like, hey, this isn't going to cut it, you guys. You got to know math.
No, this year it was just, you guys were really great. That was really fun. You did great. But there is one girl that exact thing you said, I've like thought about saying it to her because she is so good, and she was so good last year also. And I already talked to the person who like does the casting for next year, and I'm like, I'm gonna riot. If X is not the lead of the show next year, I'm gonna riot because she should have been the last 2 years. But they have to give it to an 8th grader, of course. Politics.
Nepotism.
Yep. But let's see. I did that, and then I don't know if I did anything else too fun.
Okay. I'm coming in hot with something.
Oh my gosh, please.
Okay, so like in every TV show, they'll have an episode occasionally where just the idiot of the group gets left to their own devices for like 1 minute and does something stupid.
Yeah.
You know the trope I'm talking about?
Yep.
Well, tonight in the Armour household, I was that idiot. Shyla's out getting her hair done. And
oh my gosh, Zach, you're such a stupid husband. If you get left alone for 1 minute.
So I had to find dinner for myself. I told you, like, hey man, give me like 45 minutes. I'm going to make some food.
Yep.
I got this idea last week. I've never seen it anywhere. If someone else has done this before, don't tell me. Let me think that I'm special and came up with it on my own. We have these Costco frozen pizzas in our deep freezer that I eat whenever I, am on my own or we're just too lazy to cook. And I'm kind of getting burnt out on them, even though I love pizza. And I was like, and I also think they're not that filling. And I usually want to,
empty calories.
Eat half now, take half for lunch the next day, but then I'll end up eating like, 3/4 of it. So
and then there's only 2 pieces left, so you better just finish her off.
You laugh, but I've done it.
I know. That's what everybody does when they make a frozen pizza.
I had an idea that was either going to be the stupidest thing ever or was going to make me a culinary genius. John, I felt kind of like you. I felt like Linguini. I was experimenting in the kitchen. I took not 1, but 2 of these Costco pizzas. All right. I took the pepperonis off of one of them, so it was just a cheese pizza, and I put extra cheese on it. And then I cut the crust off of the other one so that it was like slightly smaller than the other pizza. And
oh my gosh, did you make a double pizza?
I cooked them for like a little over half the time and then pulled them out and put one on top of the other and let the cheese melt and fuse them. And I pulled it out.
Based on the fact that you said you're a stupid husband, I'm guessing this didn't work out deliciously.
No, somehow it did. It's just like this is the kind of thing I would think, I'm gonna try this out.
That's amazing. This
is just the 1 out of 100 times that it works the way I planned. And but I will say I didn't think about this. You get a pizza right out of the oven. It's piping hot, right? You got to wait a minute. I don't have a minute to wait. I have a damn podcast to get on.
Yeah, of course.
Now, if you have a pizza where the heat can't escape out the top because there's another pizza on top of it, that's going to be even hotter. This thing could burn my mouth. So, John, what do you think I, as a Midwesterner, did in a pinch with my delicious double stuffed pizza that was too hot?
When I have food that's too hot and I've got to eat it now, it goes in the freezer for a minute or two. But I don't know. Did you just throw it all in Tupperware and it's just sitting in the fridge?
I drenched that in ranch.
Oh my gosh.
And then I took a bite and I was like, why doesn't everyone do this? This should be the normal way to eat pizza. This is amazing.
Well, that sounds pretty delicious until you got to putting ranch all over it. That's why I never would have considered that, because that wouldn't even be in my wheelhouse.
When you said, what would I as a Midwesterner do? That was the hint.
Yeah.
But it's no different than dipping pizza rolls in ranch.
I don't do that either.
Oh. I'm not normally a ranch and pizza guy, but these were desperate circumstances.
Well, that's awesome. So now we're all wondering, did you eat both pizzas?
Not yet. I didn't have time. I ate 2 slices, which is really 4 slices.
Which is really 4 slices.
And
so that's
rest
like
is
a
in there.
perfect meal. That's half a za.
It was so good. I'm having it for lunch tomorrow. Shiloh's going to be mad. We're going to go through Costco pizzas twice as fast, but I say it's worth it.
Well, while you were making that, I made a nice chicken and cheese quesadilla, and it really reminded me of when we went out to that Mexican restaurant, and you said, "Your finest arroz con pollo, my good man," or "my good sir," or something. And I was like, "Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome." And I'm about to hop on and pod.
Well, good. I'm glad. Does Mexican food in general just remind you of that?
Not usually,
because it wasn't
today.
Yeah.
But it did today.
Well, nice.
Yep. So, should we tell the listeners what we're getting into today, or do you want to throw it to the Better Business Bureau first?
You're right.
It's a little crazy.
I should prime them.
How's that tease?
That was a good tease.
Okay, now send it over. And then they'll know when we come back.
Okay.
Every business says they're better. But the ones that earn and display the BBB seal back it up. It instantly identifies businesses that are committed to operating with integrity, honoring promises, and telling the truth. Makes you wonder why every business doesn't have it. So look for it, because it's looking out for you. That's why it's the sign of a better business. And find a better business anytime at bbb.org.
And we're back. I know you've all been on the edge of your seat the last 35 seconds.
On waited, what's the phrase?
On bated breath.
On bated breath, yep.
So, if you heard my master plan last week about what the next few episodes would be, and you heard me say we were going to be reading Ultimate X-Men issues 66 and 67 because the internet told me it was a double date issue with Spider-Man and Kitty Pryde and the rest of the X-Men.
And we all know that the internet never lies or is wrong.
Technically that does happen, but Peter doesn't even get like a speaking role. He appears in like 2 panels. It's truly an Ultimate X-Men story, and I was just flipping through it waiting to see the parts that were going to be relevant to us, and we would have been more confused than satisfied from it. You get a couple moments with Kitty, but truly nothing that needs to go on this pod.
Although okay, so how did I just kiss a little bit in the background or something?
It's literally not about them. It's called Date Night, and it's like you're following Jean and Scott on a date, and you're following, I guess, Dazzler's in the hospital, and Nightcrawler wants to visit her, and Professor X has a date, and it's like everyone's on these dates, and it's not the B plot, it's not the C plot. Kitty and Spider-Man is like the D plot that doesn't even get text whenever it shows up.
Okay.
So that was disappointing.
Okay. And that's a 2-parter?
It was 3 parts, but he only even appears as a cameo character in the first 2.
Okay, so did Professor X get lucky?
I stopped reading, dude.
Probably he did then.
I would assume so.
Okay.
Honestly, it's the Ultimate Universe. Anything can change, but the person that he ended up being on the date with actually is like his longtime girlfriend in the main universe.
Well, there you go.
Yep.
Good for him.
Good for him indeed.
Gosh, wouldn't it be great if Aunt May was like, I had a date with a doctor. His name's Dr. Charles Xavier.
He's so smart. You'd like him, Peter.
Now, that would be awesome.
That would be funny. Aunt May has had romances before with Dr. Octopus.
I think you've told me that because that one picture of them getting married in was it like Mysterio's or Nightmare? It was Nightmare.
Yeah.
She's married, or no, she's married to the Goblin, isn't she?
Yes, but there's like an old Stan Lee issue where she's like, "Oh, Peter, I'm getting married to Dr. Otto Octavius. Isn't it wonderful?" And he's like, "No, he's a bad guy." And she's like, "You shush. Spider-Man's a bad guy."
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. So instead of the Ultimate
Yep.
X-Men you were promised, today we are going to be doing something else that you've been promised ever since the start of the pod. John, you want to
We're gonna do the Spider-Man movie ranking tier list
boom.
thing. Yeah.
There it is. The bonus you've all been waiting for. This and Doctor Who have been teased
We're
from
doing
like,
it.
the very beginning.
Yep. Now I do have some bad news. We both didn't really know we were gonna do this until last night. We both probably haven't gotten a chance to really watch the movies in the last week. I know I haven't, but I did rent No Way Home last night, the extended version. It had 12 extra minutes in it, and it cost me $4 just to prepare. So,
could you tell what the extra minutes were?
Yes, I could. I'll if we remember when we're talking about it, I'll bring up a couple of them.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah, I wasn't taking notes when I watched it. I should have, but sometimes you're just lying on the couch, man.
Yep. It be that way. Okay. So we ready to get into it?
Definitely. And how we're going to do this is we're going to go chronologically from when they got released. And we've both rated them out of 11 properties. And then I've also got a tier list behind me that we're going to throw these on.
Oh, and if you're counting at home and you're like 11, there have been 10 live action Spider-Man movies. We're also throwing in the long-running 90s animated series.
Just for the heck of it.
Just to give you a little extra us this week.
Yes. And extra Spider-Man.
Well, yeah, him too.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the first one. Spider-Man, the animated series. That one came out first.
Wow. And because I didn't know we were going to be adding it on here, I don't have it on my list of the top 10.
Well,
so I didn't give it a
surely you
ranking.
can think of where you would throw it in. I mean, you've known that we were going to do this for like 25 minutes now.
That's true. I will probably give it 7 out of 11.
Okay, 7 out of 11. So, I know you said you watched a lot of the animated series. I have really only seen like 6 episodes, but I've seen them a million times. And one of them had Madam Web in it. And that's why I know Madam Web. And it was always my least favorite one. I don't remember what it was about, but I remember that was the one I like want to rewatch. Just like looking at her was very off-putting to me.
Yeah, I hated when she would show up.
And the other one I really, really remember from that run was one with Mysterio, where he like stops a bank robber and it's like Mysterio. And I remember I like loved that one, but it was so long ago I don't really remember any of the episodes, but I remember it was very good. But because when I'm thinking about them, I'm like, what would I rather rewatch? That's how I made my tier list, kind of. I'm like, what's like the best, most fun, most like rewatchable movie combined? I have the animated series at number 9 out of 11.
Okay. I rewatched it when Disney Plus came out. That was one of the things where I was like excited because I hadn't had access to it in so long. I like it for nostalgic reasons, but the fact that it's like specifically a children's property, like I don't want to disparage that because it's not a bad show. There's just certain things they can't do. And you can't even make like passing references to what it is Spider-Man is fighting. People don't have guns, they have lasers. Kingpin isn't running drugs, he's running a criminal enterprise or something. There are things outside of the show's control, because what the show could control was really good, but there are things outside of it that just kind of put an upper limit on, how enjoyable it can be for adults rewatching it.
Do you remember the Mysterio episode I'm talking about if you rewatched it?
I don't remember that specific episode.
Okay.
I can think of Mysterio from that show.
Yeah. And then now that I'm thinking about it, I'm pretty sure there was a Hobgoblin episode in that like five episode like DVD I had, and a Green Goblin one. And I literally just remember I would like rewatch those like on loop. It's amazing I don't remember more about them, but that tells you like how long ago it was.
Hobgoblin was actually the original goblin in that show. There was something where maybe they didn't have the rights to Green Goblin or something until like the second season. So they basically added him afterwards as like a copycat for the Hobgoblin. So that was very strange.
Yeah. Okay, so you've got it at 7, I've got it at 9. Where do we want to put it on the tier list?
Okay, so we've got what? S, A, B, C. What does S even stand for? Is that like superior?
I don't know. It's just like best. Yeah.
That's what. Yeah, I see it. I just have never asked.
Yeah. It stands for sexy.
I would say like C tier. Like it's
C
definitely
tier?
not D or F. It's definitely not bad. I just
No. I was even maybe gonna say, and this tells you like how good most of these things are. I was gonna even throw it in the B tier.
well let's
but I'm okay putting it in the C tier if you want to. What do you think?
I think to be objective, we can't say everything is great, you know? I think the C tier is, you know,
Average.
where
Is
I
that
would
what we
put something that you said is 9 out of 11.
Well, that tells you okay. I mean that's kind of a testament to how good most of these movies are, I think.
I think the fact that we're talking about them and have done 60 episodes about Spider-Man is a testament to how much, you know, we like these properties.
Yeah, we might not be the most objective people on these movies.
We can say something is in the lower tier of Spider-Man
Yeah.
shows and movies and still like everything that's Spider-Man.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good point. Okay, so number 2 on our chronological list here is Spider-Man, just the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
Spider-Man 2002.
Yep.
So I'm curious where you put it.
I mean, I put this bad boy at number 1. I just don't know how you get better than this one.
Okay.
I think it's just so much about it is like perfect. Like you think about every single person that got cast and they're all amazing. They're all like having fun and just like campy enough to where, you know, it's not as realistic of a movie as some of the other ones, but it's just like it's like perfect for its universe.
Yeah. This probably is the one that I have rewatched the most recently. I probably revisited it, I don't know, 2 months ago, 3 months ago. And I remember it pretty well from that. And I said it's one of the most nostalgic movies and marketing campaigns of my life. Like, I don't just remember.
Oh my gosh, I remember when the new movies would come out. Do you remember like the red versus black McDonald's or Burger King something when
the third one
movie came out?
I
Yeah.
don't. But I was absolutely locked in when the first movie came out. That was like, I was already had hit my peak Spider-Man fan phase with like the comics and the cartoons when they announced there was going to be a movie. And then that just sent me into a fever pitch. And I can remember like the computer game that came out around that time. I can remember specifically one of the things I crave the most is the Kellogg's Spider-Man cereal that they had from the time that movie came out to like when the second movie came out. I loved that stuff, and I still occasionally look at boxes of it on eBay, and
that's what I was just Googling.
I kind of one of these days I'll get it just as a display, you know. But I do also want one that is still good enough to eat, and I know I'll never find that.
$125. This has been sealed, so you could pop it open and try to eat it.
There's no way it's not stale.
This would also be awesome to just like have. I have like a Peyton Manning cereal box from back in the day that is like sealed. There you go. Zach's got a nice Larry Bird Wheaties box there.
Yep.
Well, that's awesome.
So
I'm guessing you
like,
put this pretty high too.
I said 3.
Number 3. Okay.
Yes. So, and I said there's reasons why it's not number one. So
Okay.
good in its favor. It's one of the most nostalgic movies of my life. I said really bad love story and writing, but we don't care because Kirsten Dunst is a smoke show, and that upside down kiss scene rocks.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that scene of them in the rain stirred some feelings as a young growing boy.
Oh yeah. I'm almost certain she was maybe my first crush. And I said it's maybe the most quotable / memeable superhero movie. Think about it.
You know, one of my most, like, I quote this all the time. Nobody ever knows what it's from. So then I have to, like, pull up the YouTube video. But all the time, I'll be like, I got you for 3 minutes. 3 minutes of playtime. You ain't going nowhere.
John, if you were any more like physically intimidating of a guy and you did that impression, people would run away. But they probably see you do that and they're like, he's got to be doing a bit, right?
I'll like pick up one of my cats and they'll be fighting. And they'll be like, you ain't going nowhere. I got you for 3 minutes.
That's hilarious, doing it to a cat.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes me cough. It probably is. That's, yeah.
And then my last bullet point just says, did you know Tobey Maguire actually caught all of that food on the tray?
Yes, I did. They did like 150 something takes, or maybe even more than that.
Yeah. Imagine having to clean because it's food. It's going to spill all over the floor. It's going to spill all over him and her clothes. They probably had to change wardrobe and clean the room every time between shots.
I didn't ever think of that. I figured they could just like rerun it, you know, put the stuff back on. Probably it's all fake food, right? Like, so it just falls down, but they can just pick it back up.
I don't know. It looks kind of real.
I don't know. I'd want to rewatch that. Yeah. So I've got a story from the set here. This is also, I'm sure you know everyone like hates Tobey Maguire. Like he's just like, yeah, that's like common Hollywood knowledge. Is Tobey Maguire is like kind of not a great guy, just like he's a jerk, you know. Not a great guy like some of these people aren't, but at least back then. And yeah, so yeah, there's a movie about poker called Molly's Game, and he's like Michael Cera's character, who's the main character, is based on Tobey Maguire. Huh. And it's when Tobey Maguire like got really into poker back in the day, and you know he like ran his own game kind of, but yeah, apparently on set everyone like was fed up with him, and the scene where he's fighting Flash Thompson, they like offered Flash Thompson, the guy who plays him, like $100 to actually knock him out, and then he like looked over and like another guy on set like nodded to him, just saying like, you know, he'd like give him another $100. And obviously that didn't happen, but that's kind of a funny little tale.
That is funny, and I kind of hate that now because like I had no idea anything about Tobey Maguire the person. You know, I just know Tobey Maguire the entity. The most I knew about him as like a human being was that he was childhood friends with Leonardo DiCaprio, and so that's why it's really cool that they got to do
The Great Gatsby
together. Yeah.
Well, he's probably not a jerk anymore, and he probably wasn't even that bad, you know.
It was like maybe overblown.
It's a movie set, yeah. I'm sure everyone's like high strung, especially he's like the star of a franchise. And oh shoot, I was about to say something. I don't care that he played poker and ran his own game, and I think that's like cool as hell.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Like Tobey Maguire.
I don't know why that would be like a negative.
Yeah, I think he's like a jerk in the movie, you know. I think he's like a jerk while he's doing it, you know.
I could imagine most rich and famous people are, though, at some point.
Yeah, probably. But the Green Goblin, Willem Dafoe, is so awesome in that movie.
Yeah.
He's probably still the best villain we've gotten, I would say, out of all of the Spider-Man movies. And
people don't like his suit. I love the suit. It
I
might
love
be
the
because
suit also.
I was so impressionable when that movie came out. Like there was nothing. That movie could have been
That suit looks
objectively
better
bad.
than a rubbery goblin mask. It looks better than Amazing Spider-Man 2, where the guy just turns into a goblin. I mean, it looks the best out of every live-action goblin-looking thing we've gotten,
It's
which is
not
only
bad.
a couple. I don't think so either.
I don't understand the hate for it.
There's the scene where he throws the pumpkin bomb and all the skeletons appear. Man, that scared me as a kid. Like those guys just like disintegrating into skeletons. Which people make fun of that scene, and I'm like, I love it.
There are 2 jump scares, just random goblin jump scares that scared the bejeebus out of me in the theater when I was watching it.
Okay,
I was probably 6 years old, and I'm just like had no clue it's coming, and he just turns around and shrieks, and I'm like, ah!
Oh yeah. When it's in the fire and he's in like the
fire is one, and then there's another one. There's just no context. It's like between 2 scenes.
Yeah, and it's like someone waking up from a dream is what it's like supposed to seem like, but that's not what happens in either of the scenes. I know exactly the scene you're talking about.
He just lunges at the camera, and there's like a weird reverb effect on it.
Yeah. But man, there's so many good scenes in that movie, like the Thanksgiving Day scene, the scene where he's like, you got to choose between this bus full of kids or your woman.
Yeah.
And it's right after 9/11. So they're like, you mess with New York, you mess with all of us.
Yeah. They're like throwing stuff off the bridge at him.
That's awesome. And then that fight at the very end is just like, so for like a kid's movie, that fight is pretty incredible. I mean, it's like very savage. Like, Tobey Maguire looks beat up in that fight more than you usually see like superheroes look beat up.
I can remember my dad walking out of the theater like, okay, that wasn't what I was expecting. Maybe I shouldn't have taken you to this when you're this young. But I loved it so much, and at that point the cat was already out of the bag, so when it came out on VHS, I got it.
Yeah. And you mentioned the Upside Down Kiss, but that's got to be one of the most like in the public knowledge, like zeitgeist things from like any movie. Yeah.
Which is amazing because the worst thing about that movie, and I kind of hit on this already, is like the actual characters, like the people in it, not Spider-Man, not like all that stuff. Just the characters are so one-dimensional and shallow and bland. But then they have like that incredible kiss scene, and then all the action makes up for it.
There's a level of like, it probably is just nostalgia, because you're right. It's kind of like all of Mary Jane's stuff about like being an actress, and especially in the later movies where she's like, you didn't come see my play, blah, 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 blah. It's just like, it's just fun now watching it, because you're like, that's Mary Jane. She's always complaining about Peter not going to see her play. Harry's seen it 4 times.
Yeah, Harry's got nothing going on.
Yeah. But you're right. It's probably not like great writing or anything like that. But you also get Sam Raimi, who's just phenomenal. I don't know. J. Jonah Jameson, right? I clearly have it at number 1. You said number 3. What's the tier?
Oh, that's S tier.
That's an
sure.
S. Yep.
That and the 2 things above it, you could not take out of S tier. I would have fought you on it.
Well, I'm excited about what these next 2 are in S tier, because I only had 1 in S tier.
Okay.
And we just went over it. And that's not to say others aren't great, but I thought, for my money, when I was putting this list together, there was only one option at number 1. And my like 2 through 4 are fairly interchangeable. So that's why I had Spider-Man 1 in the S tier, and I threw some others below.
So we can use this as a good segue into Spider-Man 2.
Which is the next chronological movie.
I almost had it over Spider-Man 1 because, like, objectively, that is what people say. Is like, oh, Spider-Man 2 is one of the best superhero movies ever. Definitely,
it is really good.
Of that era, of that time, it was like considered to be worlds better than the first movie. And I had to change my list because I was like, I don't care. I'm sticking to my guns.
I just
I love the first one.
when I think about those movies and I was comparing them, thinking about them, I really just think about Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin versus Alfred Molina's Doc Ock, and they're both amazing, but Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin is just so great. I mean,
Yeah.
So that is what kind of moved it above. But Spider-Man 2 was awesome.
They're
I
both
love that
mad
movie.
scientists, but Willem Dafoe is so much better at like emphasizing the mad part. You know,
Yeah.
with Doc Ock, sometimes it just seems like he's just kind of doing things. Every time Willem Dafoe is on the screen, you're like, "Holy shit! Look out, you guys! That's a maniac."
Yeah. All of the like effects with Doc Ock's arms, or when maybe not all of the effects. I shouldn't say that because I don't know it, but I know that they were like practically like on him moving around.
Yeah,
and they were
I've seen that.
controlled with like strings. And there's some funny outtakes of him like drinking a glass with his claw, and you know it's like spilling all over him because it's a puppet like moving his arm up. But man, what were some of the best parts of that one, Zach?
Okay, well, hold on. I want to respond to what you just said about those practical effects and that spit. You know how people will say, "Oh, that movie couldn't get made today," and they're always talking about like cancel culture or something.
Yeah,
That is something that you genuinely would not have done today, even if practical effects worked like they did there, even if they were cheaper. We are just so past the world where they even consider doing that. All of this would be done in post nowadays, you know?
I mean, you are 100% true, and I think the movies are worse for it. Like,
Yes.
that was one of the first things I noticed, kind of jumping to No Way Home here, because Doc Ock obviously comes back in that one, was the first scene he appears in. They're fighting on that bridge, and his arms are just going every which way, like 30 feet, like reaching out. And it's like, this is not as good as it was before. You know, they don't look as real because they aren't. And they're just not, you know, I don't know. There's something off about it. You know, he's not supposed to be able to do that.
I don't know
at least
how to
not this
describe
version.
it. There's some kind of magic to when you watch like the original Star Wars or Jurassic Park or something, and you know what you're looking at might not be like visually the most impressive thing, but the process of getting it to look pretty damn close almost enhances the art, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really mind when like movies don't necessarily like look perfect. Like I like Doctor Who, you know, their budget is terrible, but as long as I think that they're like doing their best, you know, then I don't really care about that. What annoys me is now you see movies like The Flash or something, and like half the movie looks rubbery while they're like running around, and it's like, you guys need to spend more time on this or do a different movie or something. You know, I know all the special effects people are like overworked and underpaid, so it's not their fault at all.
Flash
But-
probably could have used some practical effects. Maybe that would have been
Yeah.
a better finished product.
Definitely. Okay, so now what were some of the best scenes of this movie?
Okay, so I've got bullet points. I didn't think in terms of like necessarily best scenes, but sometimes my bullet points end up being the best scenes. I said this is objectively better than the first Raimi movie, but my deep emotional response for the first one prevents me from admitting it. I said it's ripped straight from the original comics in the best way.
Oh, really?
Like even, you know, everyone knows the Spider-Man No More cover.
Yes.
With
My gosh, yes, we get the Spider-Man No More in
the suit in the trash can.
That's right. Yeah,
Nowadays-
I kind of forgot that storyline was in this.
The MCU does that kind of stuff all the time, and we just kind of roll our eyes. In 2004, comic book nerds everywhere were celebrating like the Ewoks, seeing
Yeah.
like pointing at the screen and saying, "Hey, look, it's the thing." That was our first time to do it.
Yeah, I remember watching like Easter egg videos and being like, "Oh, cool! That's from the comics." What was the Peter and MJ love story? Are they dating in this one? And then what's up with Harry? Harry's dad is dead now, so he pays Doc Ock to like go and capture Peter or something and tell him about Spider-Man, or I don't know.
You sound like AI writing this movie. Yeah, and Harry has gone to Mary Jane's play 4 times. That's it. That's the film. I said, I think this is the best scene. I've thought this was the best part of the movie since it came out in 2004, and to this day, when his spider sense says, "Hey, you're about to get hit from behind," on his little moped, and he does the backflip, and the kids see him, and they're like, "How did you do that?" And he's like, "Oh, eat your green vegetables."
Yeah, that's right.
And, like, my mom's always saying that.
That's awesome.
I love that.
Tobey Maguire is a perfect Peter Parker. He might look like a grown man, but he still is. He's just perfect.
Hot take. He's kind of creepy in a way too. Like,
definitely,
he plays an endearing Peter Parker here, but in another universe, he could just as easily play a disturbing Patton Parnell.
Gosh, there's okay, the podcast I always talk about, not to give free publicity to other pods, but these guys are awesome. But they do this thing called Caravan of Garbage, where they talk about different movies, and of course they've talked about the Spider-Man movies at some point. But one of them says, talking about these movies, he's like, "There's a different cut of this movie where Peter Parker is like a stalker villain because he is just always like, I don't know, looking at people a little bit too long."
Oh my god!
He's like, "Oh boy, yeah."
When we were rewatching the first movie, and you realize his window perfectly faces Mary Jane's window, and he's just watching her get dressed in the morning, I'm like, holy shit, call the police.
He's definitely done that without her knowing for a while.
Many times, yeah. And then at school, she's like, "Oh yeah, you're my neighbor, right?" And he was like, "I know every article of clothing you wear." Like he just clearly is so much more like focused on her and has access to me
because they get together.
Oh, okay. If you say so.
Okay, the train scene. Yeah, that's one of the best like superhero scenes ever. That's still referenced in like every single Spider-Man movie you'll ever see.
Careful, he's a hero.
What? Oh yeah.
When they're like crowd surfing him,
and then Joey Coco Diaz is there. Do you know who that is? He's some he's the like humongous Italian guy who, I don't know, probably leans over him and says something. He's probably like, "He's just a kid."
Oh.
But man, it's just a good one. Oh my gosh, Mary Jane tied up at the end.
Okay, John, we don't need to know your fetishes.
No, exactly. I'm just saying, like, if you want to talk about stirred feelings for teenage boys, like, they're doing it.
I said the Dashboard Confessional song "Vindicated" on that soundtrack slaps.
Does it? Okay.
Yep. That would be the jam of the week if this was my week to choose.
You know what?
It's your week.
I think that Hero might have been in that soundtrack also.
It was not. It was in the first one. Because remember when I said, I remember everything about the like promotional cycle for the Spider-Man, the first movie. I had that soundtrack on CD, and I would like play it on my little Walkman going around. And I think the fact that there was a Sum 41 song on there kind of started me down my pop punk journey.
I love it. Spider-Man is to thank for all of this.
Spider-Man has led me down every path in my life.
Okay, is there anything else of note in this movie to mention?
No, that was
Doc Ock
everything I had.
Doc Ock gets a good redemption arc, saving them at the end.
Peter works at Joe's Pizza, which I had to visit and eat a slice when I was in New York a couple weeks ago.
And doesn't he get fired for it or something?
He does. And they have pictures on the wall of him filming the movie with the Joe's Pizza boxes.
See, that is a phenomenal scene where he is dressing in the broom closet and he's getting out of the broom closet and brooms keep falling on him like too long. That's just funny.
It never made sense to me though, because the receptionist
and then the scene in the elevator with the advertiser. Incredible.
That scene never made sense to me though, because the receptionist lady would have had to have seen Spider-Man walk in.
Well, he must have been sneaky.
Yeah. Maybe he came through a ceiling panel or something.
Yeah. Ooh, probably. That is probably what happened.
I would have liked to have seen it though.
Okay, is there anything else? And then this ends with a funeral. I'm just guessing because most Spider-Man movies end with a funeral. The first one did. Does this one? Is this one of the only ones that doesn't? Doc Ock definitely dies.
I don't think they go to his funeral though.
This might be the only one.
Peace, bozo, and they toss him in the river.
Does Spider-Man 2 end in a funeral?
No, it ends in a wedding. That's like the opposite of a funeral.
She runs out of the wedding, doesn't she?
She does, yeah. Yeah, that was a dick move of her.
And it's J. Jonah Jameson's son. And he goes to space and becomes Venom or something, right?
No, he does not become Venom.
Well, he goes to space.
He's an astronaut.
Yes. Okay, so where's this going on the tier list?
I'm going to say this is first among equals in the A class.
Wow, I'm really curious what else are going in your S tiers, because if this is not an S, but others are, okay. I am okay putting this in the A tier because I originally was going to have it in the A tier. So that works for me. Where did you rank that one, Zach?
That's my number 4.
That was my number 3 right there. So, okay. Both of those I had just a little bit higher than you. Okay, next chronologically, Spider-Man 3.
Got to scroll all the way down.
Scrolling, comically scrolling, and found it.
And it's my number 7.
Okay, I'm going to say here, this is my number 11. It's 11 out of 11. I like this movie. I like all of these movies. I get a ton of enjoyment out of watching every single one of these movies. This one included, okay? I think the scene at the beginning where he is catching the wedding ring through the air is so well done. You don't see movies do scenes like that today. I mean, there are parts of it. I haven't rewatched it in a while, but I remember thinking this last time I rewatched it. There are parts of it where it looks a little rubbery. You can tell it's CGI'd. Most of it, though, is like incredible. It's awesome. It's really funny when Harry hits his head. I remember that. He just like bangs it. I don't know. There's really good parts of this movie. What do you think, Zach?
It's funny that you mention like that scene with the ring, because there's a different scene at the beginning that I always think of that I don't know why it stuck with me, but just the idea of him and Mary Jane finally together, finally happy, and they're stargazing in Central Park in like a web net. I was like,
yep, I remember that.
That's so peaceful. That's so serene. That's so different from anything that ever happens in these movies. I want to be like that, you know?
And then doesn't he get like knocked on the way home from there? Because the wedding ring scene, he's in his clothes, right? He's not remember. In it. I believe he is.
I said it's hilarious that Eddie Brock prayed to God to kill a coworker who he didn't even know was Spider-Man. And I said in parentheses, Hall of Fame level hater.
That is really funny.
Not only did he pray to God,
fired, just kill him.
He went to a church to do it.
He did. That guy is soft. I think New Goblin is not that bad.
Oh, he sucks so bad.
He's,
you wait, not that bad?
he's not that bad.
I went on autopilot. I surely thought you hated it.
I mean, he's like terrible, but he's fun.
They put him on a stupid
He's on a
skateboard.
snowboard. He's on a snowboard. He's snowboarding around the city. And gosh, when he's like suffering from amnesia in the hospital and is just the definition of like the perfect idiot. He like has no, he's like, this Jello tastes great. That's like what his face looks like. Man, Sandman is a good villain. It's funny that he's in the sand or he's in the machine and they're like, hey, something's in the machine. Should we run this? And they're like, it's probably just a bird. Just go ahead and run it.
They could have created a sand bird.
And how devastating would that have been?
You couldn't reason with it.
But he is good in that story, and his little arc with his daughter, and he gets some redemption. You know, he helps them fight at the end.
Yep.
I like that. Like, I think there's really good, not really good. Let's not go overboard here, but there are some fun, enjoyable parts of this movie, and probably the biggest part that doesn't work is Eddie Brock Venom. I mean, he's just terrible. I've never been the biggest Topher Grace guy. I didn't watch that 70s show, but man, he's so annoying in this film. I just don't like him.
I said there's no need for Venom, Sandman, and the Goblin all in the same movie.
Yeah, there's not.
On the Sandman, I hate the trope of like 3 movies in to up the stakes. You go, actually, this is the guy that killed your uncle.
Yeah, that isn't necessary.
Not everything has to be related, you know?
Nope, I agree. So if they put 3 more villains in, is it then okay? Because now we've got 6.
It'd at least feel
like they tried to do something.
Yeah, like it was almost thought through. Here, It doesn't look like they tried to make a Sinister Six movie. It looks like they just kept adding ingredients to the cake, you know?
Yeah. Gosh, what else? Yeah, Peter gets the black suit. And oh my gosh, we almost forgot about the dancing Spider-Man scene. How could we ever? Even that, I think, is just fun. He's just walking out of the store, like, snapping. Okay, here's the question, though. When some of these girls walk past him, they look like they're digging it, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And then I'm trying to think, wait, is this supposed to be cool? Or is he just supposed to think he's being cool? Because I think the movie thinks it's being cool. It's like, this is how cool people act in the early 2000s.
I think it does.
I mean, boy, that's terrible. It works way better thinking that this is just like dorky Peter being like, this is how cool people act. They sing jazz and they hit their girlfriends.
I always think in that moment he looks like, okay, type in Connor Oberst in Google Images.
Connor Oberst.
It's like
oh my gosh! It looks I mean, right away he looks like definitely like this guy.
The one where he's like kind of young and he's got his little leather jacket.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
That's what I always think of with that movie. That guy's the singer
really
of like
funny.
my favorite band.
But that is also very iconic, and that's one thing that even like this movie being not that great, it was still like campy enough that it was good. At least to me, you know, you knew what you were getting into, kind of.
Yeah,
it's like a Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie. You know, it is what it is. We're all having fun out here. You know,
it's worth mentioning that almost 20 years later, we can recall these moments and scenes from it when we can't do the same about much more recent MCU movies.
Yeah. A terrific scene, speaking of scenes we can recall, is when he's at the French restaurant and Oh, what's the guy's name? He's in all of Sam Raimi's movies. Bruce Campbell. He's like the French waiter, and he's like,
Oh, excellent choice, sir.
And he goes, romance. Yes, I am French. And the reason it's specifically funny is because if there was a Spider-Man 4, maybe I've brought this up before, but there was what's the art called before movies come out? Concept art. There was concept art of Peter Spider-Man catching Mysterio, like robbing a bank in like the opening scene, and he takes off the helmet and it is Bruce Campbell as Mysterio. So all of these different roles he's had in these first 3 movies, he was like being Mysterio, which I think is really fun to just like add that to the canon, that this was Mysterio that we kept seeing.
Hey, you know what? You might still get that movie.
You very well might.
It's looking more realistic now than it was 10 years ago.
Yep. So that was a great one. Let's see. There were some fun ones. Where's this one go in the tier list? Do you have anything else you want to add to it?
Well,
feel free to, Zach.
This was my actual 7, and I said the animated show is 7 and was a C tier. So that I think this by default also has to be in the C tier.
Okay. This is my lowest one, which I did have already as a C tier list, but that means I don't have any D's or F's on here, Okay, Spidey 3. So is this your new number 6 or number 8?
We'll just say both of them were tied at 7.
Okay, I'm trying to think of anything else from these 3 movies that are worth mentioning. I mean, we could do another 30 minutes on these 3 movies.
I know, that's what I was thinking.
Good. I felt like there was one more thing that I was going to say, but oh well. We'll never know. It was about like all 3 movies put together. Like anyway.
They make a trilogy.
Yeah, they made a trilogy. I don't know if the listeners knew that. Okay, the next one in chronological order is The Amazing Spider-Man. We're in the Andrew Garfield era.
2012, 10 years after the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man came out.
You are right that you're like, it's incredible these came out 20 years ago and how many more scenes we can recall, because I know so many scenes from those first 3 movies. It tells you how many times I've seen them in my life, and the Andrew Garfield movies, I just don't have the same type of like recollection of. I can remember the plots, but not like, oh, that scene was so,
It's funny. There's only like 2 Spider-Man movies where I feel specifically nostalgic about them. And that's the first one, came out in 2002. I was 6 years old. And then this one came out 2012. I was 16 years old. And there was something about it being a fresh start. I liked the trilogy enough.
Yeah.
But it felt like, the Colts that same year went from the Peyton Manning era to Andrew Luck. I was, into high school. I was starting to have girlfriends. Spider-Man was changing. All of these things felt really massive and came at like the same time. And it felt like a new era of life was kind of starting.
What year was this?
This was 2012. And so I was so excited for it to come out, and then it did, and it just kind of existed. It just kind of happened.
Yeah, it's funny that you were talking about how excited you were, because that makes sense, because when the first ones came out, you were like 6, so you probably weren't really that like, well, you actually said you remember like every bit of marketing. So I was going to say maybe you weren't like old enough for them to be like your movies. So then when these next ones came out, it was like, oh my gosh, this is the Spider-Man I love. We're going to get movies for him. Whereas for me, I was like, we just saw this.
Yeah.
We just saw this.
These were my movies.
Happen. Let me guess. Uncle Ben's going to die.
Yeah.
He's going to get bit by a spider. And that's going to be the movie. That's Spider-Man 1.
These were my movies in a different way, if that makes sense. I felt like I had a kind of an ownership over them, because it's like I drove myself to the theater. I bought the tickets with my own minimum wage job money. It just was different. Even though I remembered the original ones coming out, these were like I was taking myself to the movies. I was taking my girlfriends to the movies.
So what were some of the best parts of this one?
Well,
obviously the Branzino dinner. We'll just start with it.
Clearly you remember more than me. What's the Branzino dinner?
You don't remember? Peter goes over to Gwen's and they have Branzino, the fish.
Oh, okay. I thought this was a restaurant that they were at or something.
No, sorry. I just remember that they had Branzino.
Right.
Because she's like, honey, will you help Peter with his Branzino? He's a fucking idiot. He doesn't know how to eat a Branzino. Okay. And I'm like, I don't know what that is.
I didn't know until just
now. I've never heard of that.
That was a fish. Yeah. Yeah, and he argues with Captain Stacy. It's good fun.
Yep, it is. I love a good bit of Spider-Man arguing with the captain.
Or just anyone who thinks Spider-Man's bad and he can't tell them, well, you're talking to him.
Yeah.
My 2 bullet points on this, I said I liked the swinging and the action shots. I think that's part of what got me so hyped on it was you saw these incredible commercials where swinging looked dynamic and fun, and
you get a really cool angle with
it was
where you're like swinging from the top down
with him.
Yeah,
it was a visual spectacle in the way that the Raimi movies weren't necessarily. Not that they were bad, it just felt more like you were him.
Yeah.
And then my only other thought about this one is, isn't it neat that the director of a Spider-Man film is named Mark Webb?
Amazing. I mean, it's like just stupid enough for Sony that I would think that they sought that out for a marketing gimmick. That like sounds like them. They'd be like, wait a minute, let's get a guy named Webb to direct a Spider-Man movie. That's perfect. But he did a fine job. I just don't think that there's anything too like special about this one. It, like you said, it just existed. Uncle Ben's death, Martin Sheen, he's a treasure. He doesn't do that with great responsibility, great power line. He's like, your father said if you had power, then you had a choice, and it was your choice to be responsible with your power. And like,
he sounds like a drunk who's trying to remember how it goes.
He does. In No Way Home, I just rewatched that. So they're at the end, and Peter's like, Aunt May told me, and then Tobey Maguire's like, that with great power comes great responsibility. And they all like look at each other, and they're like, oh my God. That's what my Uncle Ben said. Blah, blah, blah. And it just would have been funny if Andrew Garfield was like, my Uncle Ben told me that it was my choice and I had the power and it was your responsibility to do what was right, Peter. It wasn't choice, responsibility.
He just starts rambling.
And then he's like, my Uncle Ben had a brain tumor also. It was getting to him in the end.
Take such a simple, powerful thought and turn it into like 3 paragraphs of nonsense.
But luckily, Martin Sheen is he's amazing. So he was still captivating saying it. I was still like, yeah, Uncle Ben, it is responsibility.
That is a good way to describe it. Is the actor was so great. You kind of overlook how bad the writing was. I think that was the big problem with this franchise because Andrew Garfield is good.
Amazing
Stone
actors.
is good. The problem was the writing.
Even the guy who played the lizards, whose name maybe like Rice something, Rhys, maybe. But he was in The Replacements way back in the day. I'm sure you watched that football movie, Zach. You just had to have.
I don't like football movies.
Oh my gosh, The Replacements with Keanu Reeves is so good. Now there's a movie I've watched like 100 times. It's got Gene Hackman, Keanu Reeves. They play heroes at the end. It's amazing. But what was I talking about? Why was I talking about this? Oh, the lizard is in it. He's like a Welsh soccer player who becomes a kicker because they're replacements. And damn it, if he's not just a treat.
I have never seen a football movie
It's got Jon Favreau in it too. So
that
there
actually
you go.
captures what I like about football.
I bet you will like this one more than most because it's not trying to be like Draft Day where it's like a hardcore football.
Okay. I actually do like Draft Day.
Oh, that's right.
That's the exception. But it's because of how corny and
I
bad it
recommend you check out The Replacements. It is everybody you see in it. You'll be like, oh, it's that guy. Oh, it's that guy. And it's just awesome.
I might.
You should.
I might.
Keanu Reeves,
when you watch
Shane Falco.
When you watch the original Indiana Jones trilogy, I might watch The Replacements.
Okay. I mean, that's only one movie to my 3 movies, but it's fine, I guess.
I'll watch this one 3 times.
Okay, back on Spider-Man. Let's talk about the Lizard's plan. I know this is going to be a long episode, but it's fine. It's going to be our last one for like 3 weeks, so
that's true.
So unless you have something to do tonight, then yeah, make. I want to make everyone lizards.
You know what? It's not the worst idea.
It's almost the worst idea.
I would say it's better than capitalism.
It probably is. It would probably work better than capitalism.
Like, it's stupid, but we're already doing stupid things, so why not?
Didn't some people like start getting turned into lizards? Didn't we see like cops getting turned into lizards at the end?
God, I hope so. If only the cops became lizards.
I want to say that's maybe like what they showed. That's probably a statement. God, they're just being political.
What if Mark Zuckerberg was like the next closest person and he became, a reptilian?
Yeah, it's pretty goofy, but there's some good fights. They have that battle in the sewers where Spider-Man takes his camera down into the sewers that has his name, Peter Parker, taped on the back. Just not very smart.
Stupid. Oh, he finds that like train car that his dad left for him somehow?
No. That's the second one.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, you're moving ahead.
Okay. Well, damn, because I actually said I liked the second one, and that is such a dumb notion.
Gosh.
It's like one step removed from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Well, should we get to the second one?
Sure.
Captain Stacy dies. It ends in a funeral. Spider-Man 3, James Franco died. It ended in a funeral. So if we're keeping track, that's 3 out of 4 ending in a funeral.
3 funerals and a botched wedding.
3 funerals and a what? Yeah, that's a movie in itself right there.
That's a good title. Now we just need a story to build around it.
Where'd we put this one? What was your number?
Oh, 8.
I had number 8 also.
Nice. So what is that? C tier?
I would feel okay putting
knocking it down
in C tier. I'm okay going in C tier. Like having my last like 4 all just being in C tier. I mean Spidey 3 was my lowest and that's in C tier, so I'm fine with C tier.
Okay. I could put it in D, but if you want it in C, we can do that.
I don't think we can put this one in D, considering the second is, I think, worse than this one. At least I did. Okay, let's get into the second. Not
to me, it's not.
Okay. Amazing Spider-Man 2. Give us your immediate thoughts, Zach. It sounds like you probably have more love for this one than I do.
I'm realizing I'm contradicting myself. I said just the last one and the first movie were the ones that I was nostalgic about. But then
this doesn't have to make sense. This tier list doesn't have to make sense.
My first note says another nostalgia film for me came out my senior year of high school. I said best suit ever. That should count for something.
Okay. It's got ripples. That's something people always point out when he's like swinging through the air. It's like rippling off him.
Oh, the air.
And it's just a nice, it just adds some realism to it.
That's cool.
But this one opens with a scene like that, if I remember correctly. I believe it opens with you falling with Spider-Man, like watching him from the top down.
Yeah, sure. That sounds right.
Yeah, it's a good one.
And I said best romance of any of the films. like take out Gwen dying at the end. They make you care about her and him.
They're a little annoying with their back and forth throughout the whole thing, because aren't they like they're breaking up and then they're together and then he's spying on her and then they're together again and then she's going to London, so they're breaking up, but then he makes her a nice message on the bridge, so they're together, and then she's dead.
Okay, but how far off is that from the romance in the first trilogy? But this one actually has some cute moments to it also.
Well, did anybody go and see Gwen Stacy's play 4 times?
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah, so I liked her and him in this movie together.
Yeah.
I felt like they were more intentional about their romance than in their first outing.
I think that I kind of put their relationship together, so I don't know if there's a big difference from one to the other, but some of their scenes, I feel like people either really like them, their dialogue, or they really don't like them. And I am on the page that I don't like it when they're talking to each other, because Peter always just like, they speak in like half sentences where they're like giggling the whole time they're talking, and they like can't really think of what to say. And I get it. That's how real teenagers talk to each other when they think that the other person's cute, but they're grown adults. It's impossible to not look at Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield and be like, speak in complete sentences to each other,
I don't know, man. I
told you, it's
18.
something people either really like or really don't. And I didn't like it. I don't like it when people can't spit their words out. I'm like, move on. We got to go.
It is so good when he's like, all right, let's go. And he webs her hand to the hood of the car, and he's like, sorry, love you, gotta keep you safe. And he swings away, and she's like, Peter! And then covers her mouth.
Like, oh, shit. Yeah.
Should have just said that. Like, come on.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
I said the Sinister Six tease at the end had me hooting and hollering in the theater for nothing.
Oh my God. I can't believe you just mentioned like the basement of villain costumes in a good way. I just have such a different experience watching this movie than you did, Zach.
It ended up being disappointing overall.
This was the movie that I think ruined movie trailers for history, because I'm pretty sure like over half of this movie was shown in different trailers throughout the like preview cycle. That's how many minutes they put in the trailers. And the big thing that they teased was what's happening with Peter's dad, and this what is the deal with this? His parents were killed on some flight in the beginning, and that was the big tease, is who are Peter's parents. They never pay it off. They never even get close to paying it off. Sucks. It's the beginning of Sony not knowing how to write movies, knowing how to write trailers, but not knowing how to write the movies around those trailers. And gosh, I just remember walking out of the theater being very disappointed. And I usually am not like that. Usually I know when I'm going to see like a not so great movie, so I still have fun with it. This one I remember being pretty disappointed walking out of. Okay, I kind of want to move it below Spider-Man 3 now that I'm talking about it.
What number did you give it?
I put it at number 10. I put it right above Spider-Man 3. But I think I have a lot more fun with Spider-Man 3 than I do with this one.
You're gonna hate me.
Well, okay, where did you put it?
I gave it 5.
Oh my God, I just can't believe that, man. Max was just, it's such a dork.
Yeah, no.
He's like, oh man, Spider-Man, nobody's coming to my birthday party. Do you want to come to my birthday?
There's a reason I'm not talking about the villains of this movie.
He's terrible.
The scene where Spider-Man borrows the hose from the fireman and he's wearing a fireman helmet over top of his costume.
That's pretty good. That's a pretty good. They're always, they're always trying to like get on the plus side with the people who served. I know. We'll put Spider-Man in a cop hat or a fireman hat or something. No, I think that's fun. Let's see. Yeah, Max is just terrible. One
Did
of the
you ever
good
see?
bits is
Sorry.
when he plays the itsy bitsy spider on the things at the end. I actually do like that. Gosh, the Green Goblin, that's just terrible, man. I just like don't get it
Yeah.
why they did that, why they cast him. He's just not. He's a snob. I don't like looking at him at all.
Why'd they introduce
Steve
Norman
Bean.
Osborn just to kill him off, and he never was the Goblin?
Yeah, that's true. Also, yeah, they just and they have like a goblin disease that makes their fingers turn into like goblin fingers and everything. It's just so dumb. There's a third villain, right? It's not just them two. Isn't there a third, or is it just them two?
The Sony bosses.
The Sony bosses, yeah. Paul Giamatti as the Rhino. You know.
Oh, yep. See,
That
I love that scene.
So do I. No,
He
so
got his
do I.
mojo back. He used
The kid is out there.
the kid is out there. He swings the sewer grate.
Zach, I love that scene so much. They showed it to us in the trailer, and the movie ends on it. It's like one of the best scenes in the movie.
I must have not been paying attention to the trailers or something.
Well, I was, because I was psyched for this movie. I was really excited for it, and I just don't think everything they advertised in the trailer was just no good. I mean, the stuff with the train, and he finds the subway tokens in the calculator.
Yeah, that all sucks.
And only Peter can be Spider-Man because it's in his blood. That's one of my biggest pet peeves with stories, is when they take a character that's supposed to be special because it can be anybody, and they decide to make him like the only one that this could happen to.
Yep. I agree. And that's part of what I am going to say later that I like about different movies.
Yeah. Okay, so where's this going in the tier list? We can defer to you.
We're very different. I have it at 5. You have it at 10.
I'm willing to give it a B tier. I'm not willing to move it any higher than that.
Let's give it C, because
that's what I would have wanted to give it.
Yeah. Did you ever see the this is like a famous internet screenshot. This gets passed around on like Twitter and iFunny and stuff. But someone commented on some YouTube video, maybe the trailer for that movie, and they said something like, Jamie Foxx's Electro is so good that even I, as a racist, can't wait for this movie. Or something like that.
That's funny. That's really funny. He falls into a vat of electric eels. Something about that. I shouldn't say that hating on it, because if that type of thing happened in the Raimi movies, I'd be like, this is awesome. He fell into a vat of electric eels. How damn goofy is that?
It's the fact that they presented this new series as like, oh, this isn't your father's Spider-Man anymore. This is serious and edgy. And then they do the most comic book thing ever.
Yeah. Well, we haven't even touched on Gwen's death at all, which is pretty important to this one. So
that is also like an amazing scene, you know? I mean,
I just hate that she dies. I do
too. I do too. I kept thinking, oh,
he's going to save her. Surely he's going to save her.
An inversion of what happens in the actual comics. This is going to be like, they're making us think that she's going to die, but he's going to catch her at the last second. And so many times it looks like his webs might actually do it.
It's really well done.
It's so sad.
That shot of seeing his webs move through the clock is really good.
Yes. Long, like, shot that just keeps developing.
It is really
and then
sad.
There's like a moment where she can tell it's too late. She's too far gone. She just kind of closes her eyes and breathes out, and you're like, you know, she just gave up. And then she bounces off the floor, and it's like, I hate it, but also
I can never tell what
good.
happens, and I think you're not supposed to be able to tell what happens, because I'm pretty sure even in the comic, you don't ever know if she dies because she hits the floor or because his webs catch her and it like breaks her neck. And I don't think we're supposed to know in this either. And one of my pet peeves with No Way Home is that they don't give that conversation like a couple of extra lines from Andrew Garfield, because he says he wasn't able to save Gwen, but I would have liked to have heard him explain it a little more, just so when he does catch MJ, it's just paid off a little bit more, you know?
Yeah.
Especially if he says, like, now we're getting into No Way Home stuff, but especially if he says, like, it was my webs. Well, now there's a reason that he swung down and caught MJ in his arms instead of by webbing her, you know? But anyway, Gwen's valedictorian speech that Peter listens to that, like, hypes him up to go Spider-Man again is awesome. It is the last, like, 5 minutes of the movie are so good that it hurts that they included all of this dumb stuff about Peter's dad that did not ever need to be in the movie to begin with. And it didn't need to be the focal point of the marketing. Like, they messed themselves up more than anything. Sony's bosses, the third villain, like you said.
What else is new? Yeah.
Yeah.
John, I know you. You're a crier. You cannot tell me you didn't cry when he's standing at her grave in fall, winter, and spring.
Is that when her speech going on during it? Because I was probably crying if her speech was going on, because that's what gets me.
I can't remember, but it's just the permanence of, like,
yeah, it's sad.
The seasons are changing, and he is not healing from this at all. I was like, oh my god, I can't.
You're just gonna make me cry now. It's awesome. He tells the kid he's got it covered. Oh man, I love it. Okay, next one.
What was
Homecoming?
Homecoming.
We're in the Tom Holland era.
They said this is not working and pulled the plug and did a hard reboot in the MCU.
Which is too bad. Also, I think that there was some talk of getting Andrew Garfield in, and maybe Andrew Garfield wasn't 100% on board, or maybe it was the people at Marvel that something happened where. Oh, I think I remember what happened. I'm pretty sure there was a meeting for Andrew Garfield and Sony to, like, talk about a third movie, and Andrew Garfield just, like, blew it off. And if I'm making stuff up and spreading rumors, then, like, if you are going to repeat that to people like I am now, you should look it up before you repeat it. But I'm pretty sure I've heard that before. He just, like, didn't show up for a meeting.
Okay, Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Hey, Jamie, can we look this up?
But what do you think of Tom Holland as Spider-Man?
I like Andrew Garfield. I feel like he got the raw deal.
Yeah.
But it is good that they finally cast someone young.
Kid?
Yeah,
definitely.
To play Spider-Man. Especially knowing, like, with the foresight, this is not a one movie gig. This is, like, your job for the next 10 years. It was good. And I like Tom Holland, you know? He's, by all accounts, a good dude. He had, like, a background in gymnastics, and I don't know how much of his own stunts he does, but, like, I'd like to think he does some of them.
I think he does a good amount. There's some videos of him, like, running around, like, flipping through the air on, like, trampolines, like, you know, that are obviously CGI'd out. Like, he's in his Spider-Man gear, like, jumping on trampolines and flipping and bouncing off of cars, and it's like, oh, man, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I am, like, so on board with him as Spider-Man. I just feel like he has a similar problem that we thought was going to get fixed by him going over to the MCU as what Andrew Garfield had with Sony, which is just, if the writers could stop shooting themselves in the kneecaps, that'd be great.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just looking. You said Amazing Spider-Man 2 was 5.
Yep, that was my number 5.
I said it was 10. Yeah, he's great. Homecoming, I thought, was really good.
I know you
Michael Keaton is awesome. There's a scene at the beginning of Homecoming. It's the first scene for anyone that wants to rewatch this. It opens with Michael Keaton. He's cleaning up a mess with his workers. And he's looking at this picture that his daughter drew him of the Avengers in New York. And it is so funny to watch him look at this picture. Zach, it is a child's picture that they drew on a piece of paper. And he's looking at it, and he keeps like moving it back and forth, like looking above his glasses and below his glasses as if there's like a million different things that he's trying to point out. He's like, yeah, this is pretty good. Can you believe that she drew this one? Aliens, huh? And oh my God, if you watch it, you will be like, Michael Keaton, what are you doing? That is not how people look at a picture. Where's the director on this?
That reminds me of, there's something where Tom Cruise drinks coffee and then swigs it around in his mouth like it's Listerine. And people were laughing at that and making fun of it. And then one day I was like, hey, babe, watch this. I'm Tom Cruise. And now I do that with my damn coffee, and it's probably not good for my teeth.
That's funny. Let's see. What are some... that's the scene that they mess up, though, and they say like 8 years ago when it's actually only like 6 years ago, or maybe they say it the other way around, like they say 6 when it's actually 8. Such an easy thing to get right that they got wrong.
Yeah,
so it's just Sony being Sony, man. I swear they just
or Disney or whoever.
No, I just don't buy that. That's a mistake that Disney made. That is definitely a Sony error. I think. They probably looked up when the movies came out, and they were like, "It's been 6 years since this one came out." Let's just say it's been 6, or you know. Okay, so what do you think of the Vulture?
I don't.
And what do you think of Tony Stark in this one?
I said, so I have 2 notes on this one. I said mostly an Iron Man movie, which I know for you is probably a compliment.
I don't
you like
agree
Iron Man.
with that, but I do like when people say, why is Iron Man in a Spider-Man movie? I'm like, are you kidding me? It's Iron Man in a Spider-Man movie. Why do we not have more of this?
I just feel like none of his movies are his own. This one's an Iron Man movie. The next one's a Nick Fury movie. And then it's a Doctor Strange and 2 other Spider-Man movie. It's like,
yeah,
let him have one thing to himself. So I said mostly an Iron Man movie. True. And then I said Zendaya is wasted as a background character in this one.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about this reveal at the very end where she's like, actually, my name's not
Michelle.
Marilyn. Michelle, it's, you can call me MJ. And we're supposed to be like, oh my God, it's MJ.
Yeah.
I don't, yeah. So,
and there's
so
been
maybe
no chemistry up to that point.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're right. I guess she is kind of wasted. I do really like Liz, though. I think she makes a phenomenal love interest that I wouldn't have minded seeing, like Peter and her. Like, they have chemistry, I think. But her dad goes to jail and they move away.
The reveal that her dad is Michael Keaton.
Oh my gosh.
Truly might be the best part of the movie.
Yes, I agree.
And then like the limo ride?
Yeah. Limo ride. Do you mean when he's driving? Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. He's taking him to the dance. I guess I assume that kids go to dances in limos in movies.
Yeah, that is definitely one of the best scenes of the movie.
Yep. And nothing else.
The Washington Monument scene is really good, I think. I like the ferry scene a lot. You know, he's holding it together like the train.
You know what scene I like? Is this the one where someone's like, he's just on a roof and someone's like, hey, Spider-Man, do a flip.
Yeah, it is.
See, I like that because it feels more naturally like he's interacting with New York and New Yorkers.
Yeah, that guy comes back in some other Marvel movies. I can't remember right now what else he's been in, but he shows up in like She-Hulk, I think, as just a member in New York. Okay, are there any really special... I feel like we're going to start talking about these less and less.
I've got nothing else to say about this one. Okay. This is number 10 for me.
Really? Okay, this is number 5 for me. So look at that. I had Amazing Spider-Man 2 at 10, and you had it at 5, and now we're switching these.
That's funny.
Where do we want to put it in the tier list?
Same place we put the last one that was a 10 and a 5.
See, Homecoming goes. One thing I don't like that all of these movies start with home or have home in them. I think it's too hard to remember which is which off the top of my head.
Yeah, why? And
Um,
I'll say this: I like the Spider-Verse movies. Same problem. I don't
Beyond and Across. Yeah, I couldn't tell you
Beyond,
right
Across.
now which one is first.
Yeah,
Okay, well, one of those is first. Spider-Verse something Spider-Verse is the next one on our list. So Spider-Verse 1,
Into the Spider-Verse.
Into the Spider-Verse. These are probably the movies I have seen the least out of all of them. I've probably only seen this one twice. I remember I watched it in theaters and then I probably rewatched it once. So if you want to start us off, I'll let you do that.
Okay. So I said love the whole cast of Spider people that we're introduced to.
One of the things I think about is like Nick Cage as Spider-Man Noir, John Mulaney as Spider-Ham. I'm sure there's the guy from New Girl is like Peter B. Parker.
Yep.
And then is Chris Pine Peter Parker that dies?
Yep.
Yeah. So
when I said
right.
cast, I guess I didn't mean like the voice actors, but yeah, they're great too. But like just the whole group, that we meet, the Spider people.
Penny Parker.
She's
Parker.
Awesome. Yep. So
and this has some good Kingpin in it.
It has some
awesome.
great Kingpin.
Yeah.
He's like this imposing force that you could never actually cast a person to be, but you see it and you're like, oh, I get what they're going for.
And he does the Kingpin slam to kill Spider-Man.
He sure does.
Okay, I love that. Sorry, I know you're about to say something.
No, go ahead.
I love that every version of Kingpin is just like, Vanessa! I have to get Vanessa back. Like, I did not know that was such a, like, focal point of Kingpin's character, having only seen him in the Daredevil TV show. I knew he, like, loved Vanessa, but now it's in, like, everything you see Kingpin in. He's, like, screaming about Vanessa.
He's a romantic.
He is.
I said solid writing, music, and animation throughout the whole movie.
Yep. Yeah, like, the What's Up Danger scene where he goes and gets his suit at the end.
Yeah.
I love that scene so much. That song hypes me up.
Piggybacking off of that, I said the shot of Miles jumping off the building where it looks like he's flying. He's in his new suit and he's got his Jordans.
Scene.
Yep, and the glass breaks. That is one of my favorite shots in any of these movies ever.
Yeah. Yep, this is a really, really good one. And now I feel... Oh, I was about to say, who's the villain? It's Kingpin. We just talked about him. He doesn't do very many... What are they trying to solve? I mean, it feels
he's like breaking the universe to save his wife.
Yeah, everyone's like glitching. Yeah, we didn't even talk about Spider-Gwen. She's great also.
Of course, yeah. She's like the other main character.
Yeah. This is where my not having seen these movies like 100 times each, like the previous ones, hurts. I would have liked to have done a rewatch, so I could have had a little more in depth to say.
I've only seen this one, maybe 2 or 3 times, and the next one of these, the animated ones, I've only seen once.
So what do we want to rank this one? Spider-Verse 1.
What do you have it as?
I have this one as number 4.
I have it at 2.
Oh my gosh.
So I had it in my S tier.
Well, you will notice that my number 2 is still out.
Ooh.
Okay, so you had this in S. Okay, I would have put this in A, but I can reasonably put this in S.
Okay.
If I'm gonna put this one in S, then that means I would want Spider-Man in 2 in S also, which we don't have to change here, but just in my mind, those two are easily, I could flip either one of them.
It seems like we really only needed 2 tiers.
We've had S, A, and C. We
Right,
haven't
but now,
put any in B.
now we want to consolidate A and S.
That's actually a good point. There's like 4 that I think are top tier, and then there's like
The rest.
the rest, and then there's some in the middle. Okay, so next is No Way Home.
Let me scroll down again.
Zach, I love this movie.
No, you mean Far From Home.
Oh, I'm sorry. Far From Home. See, this home stuff. Well, I'm sorry that Far From Home. I love this movie, Zach.
Are people saying the next one's going to be Spider-Man Homeless?
Spider-Man Homeless. That'd be a good one. I find it very hard to say anything negative about this movie. I think it's genuinely awesome. Jake Gyllenhaal is so good. I might even say he's the second best Spider-Man villain we've seen after Norman Osborn.
Oh,
He
come
might
on.
even be higher than Doc Ock. I love Jake Gyllenhaal. The whole thing as Mysterio, we know going into the movie that if this guy's Mysterio, he's probably going to end up being a villain. But I think your average moviegoer did not know that Mysterio was going to end up being a villain. And I will say it, halfway through the movie, I thought they were going to subvert expectations.
I did
and
too.
not have Mysterio be a villain. And that scene in the bar where Peter leaves and Jake Gyllenhaal's face curls into this like Grinch-like smile, and he's like, "Was that hard?" or something like that. Oh my gosh, I just love it. And then he's going through everybody one by one, and he's like, "You did this, and he's like, "And you made up the story," or something like that. And we get the flashback of the guy with Obadiah Stane, where he's like, "Tony Stark built this in a cave."
See, that's what I hated. I know
Oh
you
my
want
gosh.
everything to be connected to Iron Man.
Okay,
I'm getting tired of every villain in the MCU getting fired by Tony Stark one time and deciding it's everyone else's problem now.
See, that's one of the... You know what? I'm not even going to say that, because the scene where he's like, Tony Stark took my technology and made it a joke. He called it barf. And you see this like little sniveling Jake Gyllenhaal in the past, like watching from the side of the curtain, like angry at Tony Stark. I just love it. I love Jake Gyllenhaal.
Man,
Tell me why you don't like it.
I can't. Here's the thing. This is my number 9 movie. It was only considered worse than Homecoming. And I said, this is my only bullet point. I said probably worse.
You had
than
Homecoming as your 10 and you had this as your 9, so you are just really not liking the Tom Holland films.
I'm
I
disappointed in them. I like Tom Holland, but they gave him no direction. They gave him nothing to work with. I said probably worse than Homecoming, but somehow I kind of remember having fun with it.
That's because Jake Gyllenhaal's fun. You know,
The suit
I
at the
like
end
watching
is
them.
cool.
I watching them do the fight the elementals, even though they're fake. I think that's so interesting that they're like able to fake all of it. I think this movie rewatches really well, knowing the twist. Like, you can really pick stuff out that you didn't get on the first run. Like the bus driver is like one of the bad guys has been like sneaking around the whole movie behind them, or maybe that's what they show you. But if you rewatch it, Jake Gyllenhaal is sneaking around in the background in multiple scenes, and it's like, oh, that's kind of interesting. You know, Jake Gyllenhaal was just back there; you don't even notice. So I just think there's, you know, I think this one's great. I love when Peter picks up the thing and starts swinging it, and he's got the Tower of London sign, just like Captain America did in Endgame. Zach, you remember when Captain America had the shield and he had the hammer?
That's what's going on here. You're an Anglophile, and he went to England.
What?
Oh yeah, the Tower of London sign. You know,
Well, it's like it's Captain America's shield.
I know. I
Okay.
understood that
Okay.
reference.
And then Happy Hogan tries to like throw the thing, and he's like, "Oh, that's harder than it looks."
Yeah.
He tries to, yeah, Zach, it's just good.
I mean,
Don't
those
hate.
things sure happened. Like I said, I kind of remember having fun with it.
Yeah. Yep. And even the scene at the end where he trusts his Peter Tingle and he saves the day, shutting his eyes. I just liked it. I just liked all of it. I think a good villain is so important for a good Spider-Man movie, and you don't get better than this Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio.
I will say, I liked the very end. I liked the like delayed villain victory when he exposes Peter. I liked the scene of him swinging Mary Jane or MJ because she had been asking for it, and then he finally does it, and she's like, "Oh my god,
hate that.
put me down! I hate this." And they go through the building that doesn't actually exist in real life that has like the big hole in it and like gardens in it and stuff. And that's cool. I kind of wish a building like that existed because I love architecture and that would be cool to look at.
Probably the worst part of this movie is the post-credit scene where Nick Fury and Maria Hill turn back into Skrulls.
For
It's
no
just
reason.
So unnecessary.
Yeah.
And it only serves to be like, Nick Fury would never fall for this stuff. This was obviously not Nick Fury, you know.
Yeah, it sucked.
Yeah, it did. But gosh, that Mysterio scene where he gives the nightmare vision to Peter.
Yeah, I like the nightmare.
Really good. Yep.
I really thought his death was going to have ended up being like a fake out and he was going to show up in the next movie and they needed one more person to get Sinister Six. Why didn't they do that?
Well, he could still show back up because it's all like videos and even if the guy's dead, you know, Mysterio could show back up.
But it's too late for it to
matter.
For him to have joined the the Ultimate Five or, you know.
Who were the five? Who are we talking about?
In Far From Home, they have 5 villains.
You thought Mysterio was going to show back up.
I kept thinking, okay, they're going to bring in
knows
villain,
who Peter Parker is,
or Mysterio, or Vulture.
Man, I would love that.
Someone's got to be the 6th villain that they're not showing us, and then there was no 6th villain.
Well, Zach, as you know,
Peter makes 5.
Peter makes 6. Yeah. Okay, where do we want? I put this one at 2. This is my number 2.
Jesus.
I struggled between this one, Spider-Man 2, and Spider-Verse 1, and I thought to myself, what do I think is the best out of those? And I think it's Far From Home, even though I know nobody else would agree with me on that.
I cannot in good conscience say this is an A-tier Spider-Man movie.
I won't let this go past A.
It's B then, right? I have it at 9.
I can move this one at A with the other S tier being Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 1, and Spider-Verse. Oh, I can move this to B, but I won't put any movie. If we're gonna, that means we're leaving A open. You know.
What do you mean leaving A open?
Because there's no A tier right now, do we? Those are all S. Or is Spider 2 A tier?
I think
that's what we did.
I think Spider-Man 2 is A tier, yeah.
Okay, I'm still okay with this ranking. I can live with this. Okay, our next one, wow, we're kind of getting close to the end here, is No Way Home.
I know you love this one.
Well, I rewatched it half yesterday and half today at the school during my prep periods. And it's the first time I've watched it since seeing it in theaters, and I enjoyed it a lot more than I enjoyed it the first time around. I don't think it's better than I thought it was, but I think my expectations were different, and now I liked it. I liked it a lot more. But the problems that I have with it, I still have with it. it still looks terrible in most of the scenes, I think, because if they're fighting, it's too easy to tell the CGI, and so much of it is just shot indoors in Peter's apartment or in Happy's apartment or in the science lab, and I know that's COVID stuff also. So a lot of the things that are wrong with it, they have excuses for not doing great, but it doesn't make it better.
Okay. These are my bullet points for this one.
Okay.
I have more on this than I have on some of the others.
That's
I said,
good.
not as bad as John says.
It's not. I agree. It's not as bad as I've made it out. You can tell that from my ranking.
At the same time, I will say kind of cringy and fan servicey.
Okay, so I'm so glad you said that because it reminded me of something I was thinking. I consider this movie to be like a 200th issue story, where they're just throwing together a big story because it's the 200th issue, and it is very like comic booky. Just in the storyline, like the storyline doesn't make sense for the real world. I know we've talked about it, but it's like everyone knows Peter is Spider-Man, which for some reason is a bad thing, even though he saved the world 400 different times. But we're just going to, for the sake of this movie, it's a bad thing. And his friends can't even get into college because they know Spider-Man. Oh no. So Peter goes across town to Doctor Strange and
who he's met like once.
And they do a spell, and it's gonna cause everyone to forget. And oh my gosh, the scene of them doing the spell, it's so rushed. It's so like not convoluted. That's not a good word, but it's so like we just have to rush through this so Peter can mess up the spell. If they talk to each other for 1 minute about this spell, and Doctor Strange is like, okay, everybody's going to forget who you are. Do you want anyone to remember? Peter would be like, that's a good question. Mary Jane, Ned, blah, 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 blah. Okay, perfect. We'll do the spell. The movie's over. But instead, Doctor Strange is just like, there is one spell we could do. And he picks a hair off Peter's head and boom, they're already doing the spell before we even know what happens to it. And then Peter's like, and Doctor Strange is just already doing it. Also, Doctor Strange is like, you changed my spell 6 times. And Peter's like 5 times. It was actually 4 times. He changes it for MJ, for Ned, for Aunt May, and for somebody else who I can't remember. But it's only 4. I'm positive of it. Maybe Happy. But I don't fully remember. But that should tell you it's not 5 or 6. And then the villains come back, and it's awesome that they're back. But it's also just like, why are they in here?
Yeah.
And then my least favorite part of the movie that I always go to when I talk about why it's like just not very well written, it's very much like this has to happen, so this has to happen, so this has to happen, is when Ned and MJ are looking for Peter and he's got the sling ring on and he's just like, and I do it as a joke, flailing my hands about, and I'm like, I just can't find Peter Parker. I just wish we could find him. That's what he does in the movie. I watched it. I even rewound it. And he's just like, it's like, oh, I just wish Peter Parker would show up. And then
for the listeners, John is shaking his hands like a marionette doll being handled by an old man with Parkinson's.
For the listeners, I'm doing exactly what Ned did in the movie. And then it's not the right Peter Parker. And he's like, wait, I wish we could find a different Peter Parker. And then different Peter Parker steps through the door. And I don't think Tobey Maguire is giving his best effort, even though I love Tobey Maguire in the role. I just don't think he's, he doesn't strike me as the same character that he was in the previous, like, Spider-Man movies. And I don't know. There's also a ton of good stuff in it, It's so fun seeing Green Goblin and Doc Ock and the other Spider-Men back, that a lot of its flaws do get forgiven because looking back on it now, just for rewatch, not like watching it as part of the MCU, what's coming next after Endgame, kind of thing. It's a fun movie to rewatch. Doctor Strange is also great in it. Now you tell me all your thoughts, Zach. Sorry, I know I steamrolled these conversations sometimes.
So now that John got done talking about how bad the writing is, my next note was best writing and performance of the Tom Holland era. But then
I
again,
didn't say Tom Holland's writing was ever bad.
I will defer to you because you've seen it more recently than me. I only saw it in theaters, and I remember thinking, like, finally, thank God they're doing some things right, after I didn't care for his last two movies that much.
Yeah.
Rip Aunt May. She was a real one.
In the first Tom Holland movie, he's like, my Uncle Ben told me that when you have power and things happen, bad things happen, they happen because of you. And everyone collectively is like, we get it. With great power comes great responsibility. Thank you for saying it without saying it. That was better than Martin Sheen saying it.
And thank God we don't have to watch his uncle die again so that he can learn to be Spider-Man. And then they wait 3 movies and do it to the aunt we all like.
And it just doesn't make sense. I think too much of this plot just doesn't make sense. Like, why is it such a bad thing that these guys die fighting Spider-Man? They're villains, like really bad ones, and it's not like Spider-Man kills them. Have one conversation with Doc Ock. Wait a minute, he dies fighting Spider-Man? Or I guess Doc Ock does say that, but when Tobey Maguire comes back and he's like, these guys died fighting you, why isn't Tobey Maguire like, listen here, you little shit, he tried to kill me. All I did was jump out of the way, okay? I did not kill him at all.
And let's play this a different way. What happens if he lives? Well, he probably tries to make another son in Manhattan again until he succeeds.
Wait, what?
Doc Ock. If he doesn't die in Spider-Man 2, if you save him and keep bringing him back to that world, what is he going to do?
Yeah.
Well, I got to try again.
So that's the other thing. When they do cure them and go back, are we supposed to believe that
it worked?
Green Goblin now didn't die? Because if he didn't, that's a different universe than the Tobey Maguire we've just seen. Because that didn't happen to Tobey Maguire. Same thing with Doc Ock. So maybe they save them and send them back to like a new universe where that's where the timeline splits off or something. But it's just not super thought out. Maybe I'm being too much of a dork about it.
So this leads into my next bullet point. Once you get over the shaky premise, it's a lot of fun.
I 100% agree. That's a great way to put it.
And then the last thing I said was, it's weird that they didn't find a way to fit in a 6th villain.
Yeah.
Even as they're making standalone movies for a 6th villain, Venom.
I think
who looks
it's
at
weird.
Tom Holland and says, tasty, or something like that, and then never meets him.
Yeah, I think that it's weird that Lizard came back only to be CGI'd the whole time. Or Sandman, where they only used footage from their past movies. Why even bring them back? They didn't die fighting Spider-Man. Neither one of them did. Same with Electro did. Okay, so it's just them two. But Electro doesn't know who Peter Parker is. He even says at the end he thought he was black. I mean, it just doesn't, by the rules that they made, it doesn't make sense.
Right.
But it's a lot of fun.
And even when the villains are like Sandman, who should have no dog in the fight, is like, all right, I'm in.
And yeah, at one point they like leave Lizard in the truck. They're like, where? It's when they all go into Happy's apartment, and they're like, Lizard didn't want to come, and they're like, no, we left him in the truck. How would that ever be okay?
Why does that make sense?
If there was an unlimited CGI budget, Lizard would have gone nuts throughout the city. But there wasn't. So they were like, can we just leave Lizard in the truck? We're kind of over budget right now. Do we really need him in the room that bad?
That's hilarious. I did not know they did that. Okay. What do we have this one at?
Okay, I have this one at I put this one at number 6.
Hey, that's what I gave it too.
There you go. You want to put it at B? We'll put it under Far From Home at B. Does that work for you?
Yeah, that works.
Okay, we're on our last one. Oh, some other annoying things about... Oh, the bonus scenes. Okay. Some of the scenes where the 3 Spider-Men... Are you getting annoyed with me, Zach? Are we going on too long here?
No.
Okay. Some of the scenes where
I'm
the 3
petting
Spider-Man...
my cat. If you see me reclining, it's because she's behind my chair, but is being needy.
And so is Percy. Percy's on the back of my chair.
Percy's on top of your chair.
Yeah. Some of the scenes where the Spider-Men are talking, they just go on for a little longer, which I don't mind at all being cut, even though it's good fun. Because in theaters, some of their scenes talking, I was like, these are going on for a little too long. But one of the extra scenes was Betty Brant does like interviews documentary style with like all of the different kids in class and Peter after his identity comes out. It's pretty fun, but I see why it was cut out for sure. And then another one is they're all in gym class and everyone in like the whole school is in gym class or on the bleachers and they're all just chanting at Peter, climb the wall, climb the wall. And it's actually like pretty sad because he just like gives in and like climbs the wall and they all like look at him like freaked out. And then someone even is like, freak. And I'm like, oh, man, this is sad. I see why they cut this out too.
How are you going to bully the superhero in your school?
Dude, it's so messed up. That's like my biggest problem with this premise is we are acting like being Spider-Man is somehow something that would not be awesome for him. I mean, I can see how it would put people in danger, but everyone should love him. There's no reason that like J. Jonah Jameson is supposed to be like an Alex Jones type of person in this universe, which I don't like J. Jonah Jameson in this universe. I think the guy whose name I can never remember who plays him is awesome, just like he's awesome in every role he does. But I hate J. Jonah Jameson's character. But I just don't think he would sway people's minds. And I don't think he'd be on like Times Square TVs saying the news to the entire city. Like, I just don't buy it. So, like, Peter would get into MIT and his friends for being Spider-Man. It wouldn't be the other way around.
Yeah.
You're
not wrong.
Yeah. But more fun than I remember. Okay, last one. This is our number 11. This is Spider-Verse 2.
Across the Spider-Verse.
Across the Spider-Verse. What do we think?
I think I know what we both rated this one.
What did we both rate it?
Oh, wait, you said your number 1 was the first Spider-Man, right?
Yes.
Is this your number 2?
No, this is my number 7. Far From Home was my number 2.
Well, I read this situation way wrong, didn't I?
What do you mean?
This is my number 1.
This is your number 1?
Okay. Allow me to
I want
it.
you to. Zach, I put Far From Home as my number 2. You know, we're all entitled to our own opinions.
I said beautiful visual spectacle.
Yep. 100% true.
I said good philosophical debate when you do like hero versus heroes, you know? I think this one was better than Civil War. It's actually substantive and what they're talking about makes sense. And you can see like heroes on both sides, you know?
Now that I'm thinking about this whole movie, I'm thinking that it would have done really well with a rewatch. I probably would have rated this higher than a couple others if I had seen it more recently, because there are some really good ideas in this movie.
Yep. And I said high concept superhero movie done right. So it's got a lot of good like sci-fi elements. It's got a lot of moving pieces without feeling like, and I don't say this like, I'm not trying to be negative, but like without feeling like Endgame, where, you know, one of the major characters of your movie might get 2 minutes of screen time. It doesn't do that. You know, everything, they take on just as much as they can actually handle. I said it starts out so lighthearted with the Spot just being a goofball.
Yeah,
and then
I love Spot.
It slowly boils to an edge of your seat kind of thrilling ending. And I said they made my guy Hobie Brown a strong, important character and not just
that's right.
some gimmick like I was so afraid they were going to do. When you introduce people to the character of Spider-Punk, I was so certain they were going to have like a scene of a million gimmicky Spider-Men and he was going to be one of them, and you point and you laugh. And then his punk ethos end up being what makes him the only hero besides Miles who sees what's actually going on. It was so well done.
This movie was awesome.
Of what I was afraid they would do.
Yeah. Gosh, I gotta rewatch this one. It is great. You're right. And I love the idea of
like
the
2 hours. And then as it's ending, I'm like, oh no, they're saving stuff for a part 2. No, I want more. Give me 2 more hours. I was ready to sit in that theater the whole day. Okay,
so that is what brings it down in the rankings, because when I thought about that movie as I was rating them, the thing that I remembered the most was that I felt like I was only shown half a movie. Because right when I was on the edge of my seat, like, yes, I like you said, Spot like ascended to his final form. We finally see that like Gwen was narrating this one, right? And she's been like, and this is a story she's been like telling to gather the other Spider-Men, and they're all about to team up. And then the movie ends, and I'm like, oh my God, I have to wait another 2-3 years to see the end of this movie? Like, that is not fair. So, and that's my final thought leaving it, is like disappointment almost. But you're right. It was such a good movie.
It made me feel the way like Infinity War made you feel the first time when you're like, wait, what happens next? And you're so invested in these characters. The difference is it did it in 2 movies, whereas Infinity War took like 18 to get to that point, to build that tension.
Okay. I thought you were going to say the difference was we all knew Infinity War was going to be a 2-part movie. I didn't know that this one... I know, you've told me that, but I didn't know it, so...
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great. It's a great one. Spot is a really good villain.
Yeah. Everything that I said that I liked about the first Spider-Verse movie, they kept and built upon for this one. You know, it's like, oh my God, how do they expand the artwork? They do. They find different ways to make like each character from each universe have its own artwork that's fully fleshed out. They don't cut any corners.
Yeah. That scene in the Spider-Verse headquarters with like a million Spider-Men is really fun. I love Andy Samberg's clone.
Ben Reilly.
Yeah. What does he do? He's like way too emotional or something.
He's just brooding all the time. Yeah. He's got like a Batman voice.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Do you have any other specific things about this one?
No, I don't.
No. Okay. I think after thinking about this, I would move this one above. Gosh, man, I kind of want to put No Way Home above Homecoming, just because it was really fun watching like all my favorite characters come back again. I'm such a sucker. They've got me. And then Spider-Verse, I'd probably also move above Homecoming. All 3 of those, I think, are in a tier list those three I'd put in a tier after the Far From Home, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Verse 1 tier.
So where does this one go in the tiers? Because obviously I think it's an S tier movie. But you would have the deciding vote now, because
well, the board is behind me, and I have the marker.
Yeah.
So.
Well, also because your vote is the one that's going to drag it down if it's not an S tier.
I can put this in A tier. Oh, you want to do S tier for this? That's right.
If you
I
think
I'd have to go
tier,
A. I think I'd have to go A tier.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, I do still feel like we were given half a movie or half a story, you know.
Okay. That's fair.
I know in your head you're like, that's not fair at all. They told you it was going to be 2 movies. Oh my gosh, this was fun. Do we have anything else to add? I mean, we could talk all day about different things in all 11 of these stories, but do we have anything else we can think of that we want to add?
I don't think so. So can we get a quick rundown of the final tier list?
Yep. So here's our tier list, listeners. Feel free to write in your ranking or your tier list on these, or any thoughts that you guys had that Zach and I missed. If you thought of something that we missed, write in. Tell us we missed it and how bad we did.
Comment on the Instagram post. It's going to come about this.
Okay, so our S tier, we have Spider-Man 1 with Tobey Maguire and Spider-Verse 1, which is Beyond the Spider-Verse. Which is Into the Spider-Verse.
We haven't got Beyond the Spider-Verse. I think Beyond the Spider-Verse got retitled to Across the Spider-Verse Part 2.
I think Beyond the Spider-Verse might be number 3. Oh, that was going to be number 3. And
yes.
Okay, I'm glad that they did that. That would have been confusing.
They just need to call one 2 Spider 2 Verse.
That'd be awesome.
Start using the Fast and Furious
Why wouldn't
names.
they do... Okay, what about this? Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. It's pretty good.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Third.
That's pretty good, too. Okay, so that's our S tier. Our A tier is Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Verse 2, Across the Spider-Verse. Our B tier is Far From Home and No Way Home. And then our C tier, we have Spider-Man 3, Spider-Man the Animated Series, Amazing Spider-Man 1, Amazing Spider-Man 2, and Spider-Man Homecoming in no specific order. They're just all in. It's a tier. You happy with that, Zach? Are there any that you're really upset about?
I can live with that.
I think I can live with that tier too. With those tiers as well. I like that.
Nice.
Okay, that does it for it.
What was your something else?
Okay, so we're into something else. I learned something in science class today.
Okay, do tell.
I learned how mitochondria reproduce, which, as we all know, mitochondria are, Zach?
The power bottoms of the cell.
The powerhouse of the cell. Yep. And that's because it gives you energy, blah, 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 right? So the way mitochondria reproduce, there's 2 things I learned today. It's really interesting. 2 things, okay?
2 things?
The first is that mitochondria, unlike every other organelle in the cell, can reproduce automatically. They don't have to wait for the cell to reproduce and then all of the organelles reproduce also. The mitochondria can sit there and just make copies of itself or reproduce. So if your body needs more mitochondria, then your cells will just make more. Okay?
Sort of like how the government can just print more money until we all have some.
Exactly. Yes. The second interesting thing about the mitochondria is all of the mitochondria in your body originally came from your mom. That sounds like a your mom joke.
Not me. I'm built different. I got your mom's mitochondria.
Gosh, I wish I would have been more prepared to say that like a your mom joke. But that's just where they all come from. They come from your mother's side, not from your father's side. So it made me think, is there a chance that this is where George Lucas got the idea for midichlorians? And I came to the conclusion through some thought that I think it is. I think that that he learned about these two things that I just learned about also. And it sprung-born him to be like, what if Jedi had something in them that was kind of like that?
That was the powerhouse of the Force.
That was the powerhouse of the Force. And it could make more of itself. So that's why Anakin has a bazillion midichlorians. We've never seen a count so high. And then it comes from his mom, right? Even that, Anakin's mom is obviously very important to him. So even that I thought was maybe like added in there a little bit.
Okay, that's weird because it's implied that she had kind of a virgin birth, right? But who actually like put that in motion? Oh, it was Palpatine. So really, if they were saying that he's powerful because Palpatine had his mom Force impregnated, that sounded dirty.
But
you know what I mean.
I do. I know what you mean.
How is his mom the one that carries the midichlorians?
Well, I mean, I don't know, right? Maybe Palpatine impregnated her because she had such a high mitochondria count that she was given a lot of midichlorians. But I do also know I saw something that I think it was one of the people that worked on Star Wars being like, yeah, that was like an idea, but it was taken out of the story for a reason, because like they didn't want to make that canon. So,
because then you got to take all the time to explain it in a Star Wars movie where you'd rather be showing something else.
Yeah. But do you think, I mean, what do you honestly think? Do you think that that's something that George Lucas, they sound pretty similar, and even the roles I can see, I don't know.
It is funny. It's always hard to try and figure out what George Lucas is thinking at any given time because it can range from like a deep opinion of the Vietnam War to I just thought that puppet looked neat.
Yeah. Yeah.
The man is an enigma.
Yeah, he is. You know what? I don't want to try to get inside that brain any more than I already did.
He's one of one.
Yeah. Do you have anything else?
I don't. So you've had 2 hours to think now, John. What's our song of the week?
Oh my God, I totally forgot.
Head, shoulders, knees, and toes. Good choice.
I didn't think about it for 1 second until just now. Oh man, Zach, I don't know. I'm choking. I can't think of any good songs I've ever heard in my life. Do you want to go? Do you want to give us another song of the week? I will. If you give me 10 more seconds and you want me to, I will come up with one. But if you have one in your pocket, we can use it.
I mentioned it earlier from the Spider-Man 2 soundtrack.
Yep.
Vindicated by Dashboard Confessional.
Oh, from the Spider-Man 2 soundtrack. Okay, I'll give one also.
Okay.
And I will give What's Up Danger from the Spider-Verse soundtrack as
Who
the
sings
jam
that?
of the week. I don't know. Do you want me to look it up really quickly?
Sure.
Gosh, the things we do for the listeners.
Isn't it like Metro Boomin that does that whole soundtrack?
No, it's different. Every song is different because the main song on it is Sunflower by Post Malone.
Oh, yeah.
This is What's Up Danger with Black Caviar, song by Blackway, Black Caviar. And he's in a black suit. And
all
it's a black
everything.
Spider-Man.
Yep.
Wow, must have done it on purpose.
Love it.
Okay, so we've got 2 jams.
2 jams?
Jams.
Save one of them for when we're not around the next couple weeks.
Yep. Oh my gosh, that is kind of sad. Yeah, we won't be back here for a couple weeks. But when we do, we will come back with a vengeance because we will have gone to Comic-Con.
Yep, we'll have so much to talk about. Comic-Con, Hickman, we'll get into Clone Saga.
That will be fun. Did Shyla say anything when you told her that everybody says I look like the
She thought
guy?
it was funny. Also, her and Alyssa are gonna be cosplaying. They're gonna go with us. They're gonna be
Okay,
stuff.
dude, I was hoping that maybe they would. That's awesome. So what are they going on as?
This is very funny. You kind of have to know their personalities. You already know Shyla, how like bubbly and outgoing she is.
Yep.
I think she's gonna go as Cowgirl Barbie from the Barbie movie.
I just watched that the other week.
You know the outfit I'm talking about?
I think I do. But
It's the one where she has a cowboy hat on.
yeah, okay.
And then Alyssa is
Oh my gosh, yeah, the all pink outfit. Oh, that's great.
Alyssa is a lot more reserved and is always wearing dark colors, and she's going to be Wednesday Addams. So they're going to look really funny next to each other.
That's great. That's awesome. Those will both be really good.
Yep.
We will be a motley crew.
We're all TV and movie people.
We're all like completely different, not has anything to do with one another.
I kind of like it, though.
It'll be fun.
Yep. I can't wait.
Okay, should I send us out?
I think so. This might be our longest one ever.
Yep. Thank you to Ian Hickey for our music and Alyssa Seaman for the artwork. And thank you all for listening and leaving us a review or a comment. You know, Zach and I still check the comments. Should we read the ones that we got, actually? We almost forgot.
What the heck? Let's do it.
What the heck?
We're not getting any closer to an hour and a half.
We got some good comments here. You know what? If it's too long, just listen to half of it and listen to the other half next Monday, you know?
That's true. You guys can break it up however you like.
And we're telling you to do this at the very end of the episode. Okay, so we actually got a bonus episode kind of request, which I always appreciate getting, even though we tend to not do them, but we sit on them for a rainy day, you know?
We say no a lot, but we appreciate the suggestions.
But this one was from our longtime listener, Matt, who talked about a Deadpool run where he goes back in time and basically he goes back to an issue of like 1967 Spider-Man. And I've actually mentioned this one on the pod before because the podcast that I listen to, The Weekly Planet, they did like a YouTube show on this one.
Dude, what's going on? Are you like on the take for them or something? You've mentioned these guys 5 times today.
I mentioned them because I told you this story before we started recording.
Uh-huh. You get paid for the mention.
Yeah, I do. Yep. Damn it. But it does seem like such a fun issue to read. And I do really want to read it. And it'd be fun to read it with you, Zach, and to still talk about it because I think it would be fun. So we should save that one for a bonus sometime.
And I was telling John, this was all, I think, before we started recording. I haven't read that issue, but I've read a later Deadpool issue that I would bet anything is referencing that because it also like kind of goes back in time and is in like retro art styles, and they're playing around with that whole thing.
Yeah, that seems like a fun way to do Deadpool versus making him a racist skeleton man who sucks.
Yeah, who kidnaps people and hunts them on an island.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you, Matt, for writing in. And then somebody else wrote in. This is Mario, said, currently going through your podcast on Spotify while I'm reading Ultimate Spider-Man, and I really enjoy it. You guys are great. Thank you, Mario. And then we got one from Noir Hacks that says, to comment on your rant about your dad and electric cars and water-powered cars, someone did create a water-powered car, and it worked, and they killed him. You can look it up. It's crazy. That's why we don't have water-powered cars, lol. And I'll tell you, Noir Hacks, when I first read that comment to Zach, it was also the first time I had ever read it, I started laughing. I could not get through the comments. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I'm going to have to look it up.
So, yeah, the first guy that made a water car, they killed and buried it. The second guy, it got through to the general public, and they've renamed it Boat.
I've got to read about this guy, Zach.
So my dad actually, not that it matters, but he believes in hydrogen, like fusion cars. So not like H2O, but like just straight up hydrogen. And if you're seeing the problem with that he doesn't realize, it's any fender bender would cause like a nuclear blast, pretty much. Like they would explode so badly. But he is just convinced that like
be a problem.
That's smarter.
That's gonna make it more dangerous to drive drunk.
He's just convinced as long as you can like, sort out that little problem, having an electric battery in your car makes no sense. We got to do it this way.
He's not wrong.
He's not. If you iron out the problems with a really problematic thing, then it's always going to be good.
Yep. So thank you for all the comments and the reviews and everything like that. You can find us, the First Read Ultimate Spider-Man podcast, on Spotify or Apple Music or anywhere else that you find podcasts. And you can leave us a comment on Instagram at First Read Podcast. Send us an email at firstreadspidey@gmail.com or find us on YouTube, First Read Ultimate Spider-Man Podcast. See you in a couple weeks.